In this session, we'll be looking at creating tuples, accessing values in tuples, and what it means to update and delete a tuple, considering that the tuple is an immutable data structure. An empty tuple can be defined as a paired parenthesis containing nothing at all or passing no arguments. Now, what does that look like? Let's have a look. If we say tup0 is assigned the following. So here we are creating an empty tuple. Can print that out, tup0. So let's run that. And there we go, there's our empty tuple. Now, we can also create a tuple containing elements which can be defined through comma-separated values. So here we can say tup1 is equal to literal string A, literal string B. Print tup1. And if we run that, there you go. And there you go. There's our empty tuple, and there's the output for tup1, our tuple with literal string values A and B. Okay, now, optionally, you can also define a tuple containing elements by providing comma-separated values between parentheses. So what does that look like? Well, let's have a look. We could say tup2 is assigned values, integer values 1, 2, 3, and string value B. Print tup2. And if we run that, there you go. And there's our tuple with integer values and a literal string value surrounded by parentheses. Now, it is important to note and emphasize that just like string indices, tuple indices start at index 0 and are subject to operations, sequence type operations like slicing and concatenation. Slicing, of course, refers to the extraction of part of a sequence, while concatenation of a tuple or sequence type operation is the combining of multiple sequences together. To access values in a tuple, you'll need to use the square brackets for slicing along the indices to obtain a value available at that index. So let's have a look at what that looks like. Here we, on statement or lines 2 and 3, we have tup3 equals the values, contains the values art, biology, the integer values 2019 and 2020. Tup4 contains the integer values 1, 2, 3, all the way to 7. If we then move to then enter the following statement, So that's a literal string. So this will give us a literal string output. And using the square brackets, we can then slice. And remember, slicing refers to an extraction of part of a string. So we're slicing or extracting from indices 0 from the tuple or sequence type top3. We can also do the same with top4. Provide a literal string output. And then slice from top4 range 1 to 5. And if we attempt to output, to run this, we've got a slight error here. So let's have a look at what the error here is. Now this is great because Python or an IDLE like PyCharm will tell you where the error is. And here it tells us that the error is here, which tells me where to look. So if I then come to this part, I can see, oh, I missed out a comma there. There we go. And if I then run the program again, there it goes. It prints it out. So here, the output that we've been given for top3 is the string literal output top3 at index 0, and the output of this part of the code is art. So art, the string sequence, the string art has been extracted from the tuple. Here, in the next statement, we have the literal string output top4, range 1 to 5. And here we have the extraction of the values contained between index 1 to 5. In this case, they are the values 2, 3, 4, and 5. Remember the index 0. This would be index 0 here. This would be index 1 here, index 2, index 3, index 4, 5, 6. And we have extracted from index 1 to index 5. And there you go. Tuples are immutable, which means you cannot update or change the values of tuple elements. However, there is a workaround. You can take portions of existing tuples to create new tuples. So for example, in the statements, statement 2 and 3, we have a tuple that holds an integer value and a float value. And we have another tuple on line 3 that holds 2 literal string values. We can then create a new tuple, for example, and assign it the values contained within tuples 5 and 6. So here we go, tuple 7 equals tuple 5 plus tuple 6. Okay? And then if we run print tuple 7. So if you run this program, there we go. And here we have it. We have tuple 7 outputting the values contained within tuple 5 and 6. So we might not be able to update tuple 5 and 6, but we can create an updated tuple that contains values from existing tuples. We might not be able to remove elements within a tuple. However, we can delete a tuple in its entirety using the del command. In this example, we have a tuple that contains the literal string values history and art and integer values 2019 and 2020. If we run these two statements, we see the output of the tuple. If we then use the del command, del tup8, and then attempt to see if we can still get a printout of the values contained within tup8, and run the program again, we see an output name error, name tup8 is not defined. This is Python telling us that tup8 is not in memory and cannot be found to output.